For those of you who I have not yet had a chance to meet yet, my name is Robin Sokoloski, and I am the Director of Programming and Research at Mass Culture, which puts me in the very amazing position of also being the project manager for the DNA initiative. And I'm thrilled to introduce the session that we're doing today of the DNA Expo to share with you the DNA platform and its first dashboard, as the DNA platform is going to consist of many dashboards that will be unveiling throughout the entire year. Just to give a little bit of background and context on what we've been up to this point, over the last 18 months or so, Mass Culture has been collaborating closely with a cohort of 15 arts organizations from across the country, learning alongside them as they navigate how to better integrate data into their own organizational work. And I just wanted to share with you, in case you're interested, the link to all of the different arts organizations that we worked with over the last year to get to where we're at this moment. This data journey has really provided us an invaluable insights into the needs and opportunities within the arts sector. Empowering the arts community with data requires more than just tools like the one we're about to share with you. It demands a commitment to high-level ongoing engagement with all of you and our arts community. The DNA platform and its first dashboard that we're going to be sharing with you today is designed to help you see, sense, and build an evidence base for your organization, the coalitions that you might be a part of, and the art sector as a whole. This particular dashboard that we're sharing with you in a few minutes we've named the Sector Snapshot Dashboard. And it's meant to be a powerful resource offering a big picture view of the art sector. And we see this really as a starting point of a data journey that we hope to co-create with you. And please know that this is and will continue to be a work in progress, because we're just going to keep learning and updating it as we use it more and more with all of you. One important point that I do want, an update that I do want to make sure everyone is aware of, that we will be offering the DNA platform en français très prochaine, and our future dashboards that we're referring to as enhanced dashboards, which will be rolling out throughout the year. We'll explore more nuanced narratives, diving deeper into the data and connecting it to other data sources. So I can't emphasize to you enough that the true potential of the DNA platform lies in how you engage with it, and sharing your insights and experiences on data utilization with us will be essential as we work together to refine and expand the DNA platform's capabilities. For example, are there missing data points that we could collectively gather? What qualitative indicators should we prioritize and include into the platform? And what additional data sources, whether from within the sector, like the ongoing collaboration that we currently have with CADAC, or beyond, can we integrate and to enrich the stories that we tell about the arts? This platform has limitless potential for use cases and applications. But what I'm proposing to all of you and to our colleagues who aren't here with us today is that we treat this as an opportunity to define what we want to understand about the sector. We've already started, and we will continue to explore with other data-minded arts organizations and how this tool might work alongside other data tools, data strategies, and training initiatives to support greater cohesion, ease of use, and more enriching data narratives for our arts community. So I just wanted to share all of this with you so that it's very clear on what Mass Culture's commitment is in all of this work, and explain a bit of why we're even doing this work and just our wish out into the art sector. So on that note, I'm going to have a zoom back in and turn things over to Purpose Analytics, which is the non-for-profit organization that we've been working with to develop the DNA platform. And on that, I think I'll hand it over to the folks at Purpose Analytics, and perhaps you can introduce yourselves and the first dashboard of the DNA platform.
My name is Daniel Liadsky, and I'm the managing director at Purpose Analytics, and I'll be introducing our team very shortly. But I'm very pleased to join you. We're very excited to be launching this first sector snapshot dashboard in partnership with Mass Culture. And Robin, I think you did a great job of setting the stage with some compelling challenges to the sector to think about what we want from these data projects. And our experience here was that we were able to really build on that last 18 months that Mass Culture had invested in starting those conversations. And we just think it is a really fantastic example of how to go about developing data projects where you throw something up, you get some feedback, and then you keep working at it and make a long-term commitment to keep moving that forward. So that's very much in the sort of the spirit of the things that we like to operate as well. But I'll just ask to go to the next slide, and we'll just let you know how we're going to approach our presentation here. We're going to do this in a little bit of a reverse funnel where we'll share a little bit about ourselves, tell you a bit about what's in the data set that we're going to be sharing. We'll give you an example data narrative that we've prepared so you can start to get a flavor of what the data set can tell us and some of the insights that we're starting to reveal from the data set. And then finally, we'll give you a walkthrough of the dashboard so you can get a hands-on experience. So the next slide just shares with you our team members. So we have three fantastic colleagues of mine who were working on different components of this project, and they're going to spend some time in the order that you see them on the slides there, just through the rest of the presentation, walking us through the agenda that was in the previous slide. So I'll say that we're all monitoring the chat, so feel free to ask questions as we go. But we will also have time after the presentation to answer a few questions as well. Great, next slide, please. Okay, so I just wanted to frame the objectives as really building on some of the things that Robin mentioned. So on the left is sort of the past history that built up some of the knowledge and experience and feedback of where we wanted to go going forward. And on the right are some of the refined objectives about where we'd like to take this project. So right now we're really focused on the sector snapshot, which for those of you who have already accessed the previous ARTS data platform, which we're now calling the DNA platform, but you'll recognize that the sector snapshot is really just very much a refresh of the previous platform, but refreshed in a way to help guide the users towards different storytelling, which we'll highlight when we talk about the narratives and look through the dashboard itself. Maybe I'll just highlight a couple of the other objectives that are in here. Robin already touched on the idea of linkages to other data sets, and that is in our roadmap for future releases. In particular, you'll already see that there are some organizations that are submitting to CADAC and have indicated their wish to join this platform. So we're looking at ways to incorporate their data. And there are other open data sets, notably the Canada Council for the Arts has data that they publish, and we're looking at ways to link that data back into the dashboards in the future. A big piece of this work as well is just trying to continue to build a common understanding of how we fill in the T3010 forms and what the fields mean. And that's really through a lens of coming up with common measures and also improving the data quality. And part of the work that we're doing in the behind the scenes of the dashboard and the dashboards to come is just allowing for organizations to look closer at their data, identify if there are any issues from previous submissions, and send along corrections that we can incorporate into the underlying data model. So generally, we're looking at ways that we can keep this a living data set, make updates at the request of individual organizations, and then also continue to seamlessly update the data as we get through new fiscal years with Canada Revenue Agency. So that's a little bit about the objectives. I'll just tell you a little bit about our roadmap here. So you can see the "We Are Here" sign, phase 1, DNA sector snapshot. That's where we're at. But we want to encourage you to come back and check in on the dashboards in the future. And you'll see that we've got 3 more phases planned. The very next one in February will include the French translation and the first of our enhanced dashboards. And alongside that, we'll continue to release new data narratives as we continue to query the data. So there's a couple of sort of major releases with enhanced dashboards being the sort of deliverables. And then as we're going through this process, we're expecting to hear and receive feedback from the dashboard users. And so the final release in this phase of work will be incorporating some of that feedback across all the data dashboards wherever that makes sense. And I think the most important thing is that this road continues. So this is sort of the piece of work that we've scheduled right now, but we expect that Mass Culture will continue to look at ways to invest in the dashboard and uncover new functionality as we better understand how the data can be used and also create new linkages with other data sets. So that's where we're at there. And I think what I'll do is I'll pass it on to my colleague, Daniel Simeon, who will continue with the rest of the presentation.
Hi, thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Robin and Catherine and everyone, and nice to meet you all. So I want to talk a little bit about the data that we're using for behind this dashboard. So we pop to the next slide, please. So as you're likely familiar, the data for this dashboard comes from the Canada Revenue Agency's T3010, the Registered Charity Information Return. This is an annual return that is required for all charitable organizations in Canada. So of course, and this is a huge underline, bold, this then can't include all arts organizations, as there are many arts organizations that are charitable, that are nonprofit but not charitable, or are not incorporated at all, individual artists or small collectives. As Daniel mentioned, as we move forward, we would like to include other data sets coming, for example, from CADAC, that might include other non-charitable organizations. But for now, what we see in this sector overview, we have only arts organizations that are charitable. And how do we figure out which ones are charitable? Sorry, which ones are arts organizations? There are about 100,000 organizations that file this return every year. Going through some of the categories from the Canada Revenue Agency and also what Mass Culture knows about the arts sector generally. Mass Culture has identified about 5,000 organizations that they seem to be represent the arts sector from here. Maybe they missed a few, maybe there's a few extra, that's an ongoing process. And every year we'll see if there are new arts organizations that have become charitable. And then we use that subset of the data to explore the arts sector. So that's what the core data source is here. So the next slide, please. So things that are in the data set that we're using for this for the platform so far, and there are other things which we could be using later. The head office location. So here we have the postal code, and so this does tell us where the organization is headquartered, but of course it doesn't tell us where it does its work. Right, so you can easily have a arts organization that has a head office in a major municipal area or major metropolitan area, but then is a roving theater company or does touring art shows or something like that, and then it's all over the province. So province or the country even. So we don't have that. We don't have the audience information, but we do know where the head office is. So that gives us a sense, though, for certain kinds of organizations are more likely to be stable than others. We do have general information about revenue and expenses, but one complexity of the way the T3010 works is if you are a small organization or I don't meet a couple of other conditions, then you do a simplified version of revenue and expense reporting. And about 45% of the organizations that we flagged are those small organizations. So we, for example, don't have it split out by federal, municipal, and provincial funding sources for government funding because for 45% of the organizations, it's not split out. For the big ones, it's split out. For the small ones, it just says government source. So that's sort of a limitation with the CRA data set. Other limitations about how the expenses, et cetera, are broken down is you do have, say, expenses on charitable activities, expenses on administrative activities, and you do have travel expenses, and you have, say, consulting expenses. But the travel expenses, we don't know whether they were charitable activity or administrative function. So they're a sort of different bucket, and they may split, and you don't know how they split. So again, the example of a touring company, probably a good chunk of its travel expenses is the charitable function, the actual artistic function. Whereas for something else, it might not. And then the other piece that is nice about the data is we do have some labor cost information and wage brackets. But the way the CRA form is phrased is a bit awkward. So what you get is for the top 10 highest paid employees in the organization, you get a sort of range where their salary sits. So there are 3 employees in the 80 to 100 range. I don't remember the ranges, but something like that. So if your organization has 10 or fewer employees, then it's a reasonable picture of what the organization wage structure looks like. But for larger organizations, you only get the top 10. And so you can't do a lot in terms of understanding the salary distribution in the sector. So one thing, but you are able to take the highest paid one. So you'll see in the platform, we do some analysis of the highest paid employee in the sector, which tells you something about probably the CEO, not sure. Other things that are not in the data set are audience membership and other engagement statistics. So these are the kinds of things that we'd hope to bring in from CADAC if we can, and we hope to. But that's not available in the CRA T3010 form. And so I'm just going to give you, if you go to the next slide, please, a breakdown of what is in there. Yeah, so there are these 100,000 or so organizations, 5,000 selected out. And of those 5,000, about 80% of them, we Mass Culture categorized into 2 types of categories. We call them types and disciplines. So every org has both of those labels, and you can, in the dashboard, you can search by either one or both as you like. So about 80% of them are classified as arts organizations, maybe 10% as festivals, 5% as arts service organizations, and then fewer of the other categories, the other types. And the disciplines, about 40% music and sound, 23% performing arts, 8% multidisciplinary, and on down as the categories get smaller. So it gives you a rough kind of idea of what this looks like. So something like a local arts council, not a funder, but a local group, support group, they would be, as an arts service organization, and probably be multidisciplinary if they support crafts and painting and dance, say. And so in here you can find all sorts of things like that. So this gives you an idea of who's in the data set, and these are actually screenshots from the dashboard, so you can see that this will change as you filter. If you could pop to the next slide, please. And then in order to better understand and find comparable organizations, if you're thinking about your own organization or a specific organization, we thought it was helpful to kind of chop them up into something kind of like size. Now, what size actually means is a bit inchoate, but we do have, though, is the idea of the revenue. So we chunk them up into revenue ranges. So the annual revenue for the organization. So see here, we'll have less than $45,000, so 34% of them. So that's obviously very small organizations without any full-time staff. Or if they are full-time, they're not paid very well. And then large organizations, quite a quarter of organizations between 100 and 450, and then very few in this 8 million plus range. So in terms of the revenue. Of course, these revenue categories aren't perfectly stable. An organization can have a big year and a small year. If you're a biennial, then maybe you have big years and then small years. There are some variations there. And then here's on the right, we see the geographic distribution. So organizations all across the country. It looks roughly like a population map of Canada, which makes sense. That's where arts organizations are, is where people are. And so this map will change as you select different filters. So you can see where are the broadcasting arts orgs, things like that. And I think that's all I have for the introduction to the data. And I'll turn it now over to Akuna for the first of the narratives.
Thanks, Daniel. Great opportunity to be speaking here. And I'll be walking us through the first data narrative. This is the first of many that will be coming, as we've highlighted in our roadmap. And what we'll be looking at is public funding reliance in the nonprofit act sector with a view of like, how does it look post-pandemic, right? A post-pandemic perspective. And just to set the context, we are aware that the pandemic reshaped how funding happens in the nonprofit sector as it's disrupted traditional revenue streams. The government intervention literally became a lifeline as cultural venues closed and events halted. And we also noticed public funding helped organizations navigate economic shutdown and sustain operations. And when we got access to this data, we had a bunch of research questions we wanted to explore, and these are just a few of them. And some of the questions we wanted to understand is how did the pandemic affect organization sustainability? What was the impact of COVID-19 on public funding trends, as well as how did the pandemic affect, public funding sources? And just before we get into the narratives, we just want to make a note on data adjustments. So looking at the data, we notice organizations have different financial years, financial year end. So we had to adjust the data just to smoothen out the trend and really get out the insights we're looking. So what we ended up doing is, we evenly distributed revenue across 12 months of the financial year. Revenue is attributed to the calendar year it is realized. And what this means is if you have a financial year end that ends in March, your revenue from January to March will be assigned in the appropriate year. Yeah, so the top narrative is, resilience and recovery in the broader sector. So looking at the impact of the pandemic, we noticed the pandemic caused a 12% drop in total revenues, dropping from about 4.2 billion in 2019 to about 3.7 billion in 2020. And the government support has helped stabilize these figures in 2021, as we can see. The downward trend has kind of reversed, and we can see things going back on the up. Revenues still remain 7% below pre-pandemic levels, reflecting, uneven recovery across all organization sizes, as we would see in the following slides. So we're noticing challenges in growth for organizations with revenues below 100,000. So revenues for organizations that earn between 45 to 100,000 a year fell about 34% since 2014. And currently still remain about 28% below pre-pandemic level if we look at the 2021 numbers. Well, if we look at, at the performance of organizations earning between 100 and 450,000, we see that the values still lag about 12% behind 2019 figures. And this fell from a peak of about 352 million in 2016 to about 297 million in 2021. So organizations with revenues over 8 million, as well as organizations with revenues between 450,000 and 2 million, have recovered, and some have actually exceeded pre-pandemic levels, as we can see in the charts, specifically organizations earning between 450,000 to 2 million. As we can see, the 2021 values are about 750 million, compared to 2019 values of 728 million. And we're also, noticing when we're looking at, public funding by the different organization sizes, we noticed public funding grew by 65% for organizations with revenues below 45,000. So as we can see, as of 2021, total, funding from the government was at 7.1 million compared to 2019 figures of 4.3 million. If we look at how this trend persist across other organization sizes, we can see that across most organization sizes, public funding has increased. So it's increased by 29 to 39% for revenues between 45,000 and 450,000. Also, if we look at the largest revenue buckets, which are, above 8 million, we're also seeing they also experienced a pandemic boost as well, with organizations with revenues exceeding 8 million experiencing about 34% increase compared to 2019 figures. And on this slide, what we're really trying to say is from the organization's total revenue, what percentage is coming from public funding? And what we've noticed is, there's a temporary surge in public funding support, which came as a lifeline. Because if we look at the percentage of government revenues for organizations that earn less than 45,000, what we notice is that public funding has grown from about 15.8% in 2019 to about 28.4% in 2021. And this is despite revenue for the same category dropping about 25% within the same period. And this trend kind of is exacerbated across all organization categories. As if we look at, the graph on the left that indicates 100 organizations that earn between 100,000 to 450,000, we can see that those percentages rise from about 33% in 2019 to about 48% in 2021. And if we look on the right, it's still the same story of, the public funding really came as a lifeline when these organizations needed it. And we also noticed that organizations are turning to federal public funding to navigate COVID-19 challenges. The graph shows what percentage of the composition of government revenue across municipal, provincial, and federal. And what we notice is federal funding for organizations under 45K has rose from about 18%, an average of 18% pre-pandemic, to about 22%. And even in larger organizations, we can see a larger increase to more federal funding, as we can see on the left. Organizations that earn 450,000 to 2 million, we're seeing, a percentage of federal coming from 27 to about 48 in 2020, and this increase kind of tells the tale across all organizations, which is federal funding. Most organizations turn to federal funding to navigate the COVID-19 impact. So the key takeaways are, public funding has been vital in supporting Canada's nonprofit art sector during the pandemic. As we've seen in the graph, organizations as well have increased their reliance in public funding to navigate the impact of the pandemic. We also noticed the organizations with revenues over 450,000 seem to have rebounded faster, although many still face challenges returning to pre-pandemic, revenue levels. And based on the data we're collecting, and we've collected so far, we can expect these trends to continue into 2022 as, public funding will remain essential for the sector's stability and growth. And with that, I'll hand over to my colleague Maya to take us through the dashboard.
Thanks, Akuna, and thank you to Mass Culture for having us today. So actually, before I walk you through the dashboard, I'm first going to talk a little bit about the process of designing the dashboards for the DNA platform. So if I could get the next slide. I know we're really teasing you with the dashboard walkthrough, but I'll keep it brief and we'll get there. So when it came down to designing and developing the dashboard, our primary guiding principle of building was ease of use and user friendliness. We wanted to build this dashboard for users from many different backgrounds and levels of familiarity with the T3010 data. And we wanted these users to be able to quickly and without too much effort be able to understand, one, how to use the dashboard, two, the data that they are looking at in the dashboard, and three, how and where to find more information if they want or need it. The process of designing the dashboard itself also involved the valuable input of the Arts Data Platform, the old Arts Data Platform users and other stakeholders in the arts sector. So before starting any of the development work, we actually held some community consultations where we collected insights from the ADP users about their wants, needs, and wishes for the DNA platform, which helped us prioritize, plan, and phase out the development of the DNA dashboards. And while developing the dashboard we're about to show you, we also consulted with a group of stakeholders from the arts nonprofit sector to engage in a co-collaborative and iterative process of needs gathering and feedback. These feedback sessions led to valuable pieces of insight that directly informed the development of the dashboard that you're about to see. So without further ado, I'll take over the screen share from Akuna to walk you through the sector snapshot dashboard. And in the meantime, one of my colleagues is going to share a link so that you can follow along. So here we are. This is the sector snapshot dashboard. The purpose of this dashboard was to provide users with a broad overview of the sector using our T3010 data and showcase the various insights that will be contained in the full enhanced DNA platform. The top panel includes menu items that bring you to the data narratives, that one of which Akuna just walked you through, and will contain all the various narratives that we publish while releasing our enhanced dashboards, and also contains a link to our data glossary. The data glossary contains all the detailed definitions of the data used in the dashboard, as well as the line number from the T3010 where the data comes from. It also contains a list of definitions of the custom organization categorization so that users can understand what makes up the different organization types and disciplines in the dashboard. From here, I'll go through the actual dashboard itself. You'll notice at the top that there is a link to gain access to the entire DNA platform. As of right now, this is turned off. It's a coming soon feature, but once we release the first enhanced dashboard, this link will bring you to a page where users can request access to the whole platform to be granted by Mass Culture. Also at the top of the dashboard, we have our filter bar. This is where the drop-down selectors for filtering the data are kept. So interacting with the drop-down filters, filters the data in the dashboard itself according to the selections that are made. So for example, if we were to select Quebec for region, and maybe dance organizations for discipline, you can see how even just the first couple charts changed. There's a total org count on the filter bar itself, and this is because we wanted to make sure that there was context for all the data that you're seeing. Some of the organizations or some of the disciplines and categories are quite small, and when you're looking at the data, you want to make sure what is being represented of the entire sector or of the entire data set. As we scroll the dashboard, you'll see that the filter pane sticks to the top of the window. This is so at any point you can change, check, or clear your selections without having to navigate back to the top of the page. So the first section in the dashboard itself is our overview section. This shows the distribution of the selected organizations across the various categorizations. If you're not sure how your organization might fall into these categorizations, we have a Find My Org button. They've been placed around the dashboard, so you can find them in various spots, which will open up a pop-up for you where you can search your organization or whatever organization of interest that you're looking to find the categorization for in this definition table. So for example, if we were to search Mass Culture, you'll see that they pop up here. They're categorized as a National Art Service Organization, and they fall under the discipline of multidisciplinary. So obviously the overview section gives you kind of those high level stats about where organizations are and what they look like. Our map highlights the names of the organizations relative to their location, as well as their categorizations too. The next section we have is our financial summary section, where we spotlight T3010 financial information about organizational revenues and expenses. The charts on the left show the proportion of total revenue and expenditure by the top reported categories, and the charts on the right show the trends over time. And you can see it's highlighted the selected year of the dashboard in the line chart. Using the dropdown on these line charts allows you to take a look at different trends in the different revenue and expenditure categories. For example, you can take a look at earned revenue, as well as administrative expenditures, for example. And the last section in our dashboard, you'll see is the labor and compensation summary section. This spotlights labor and compensation data from the T3010, which includes full-time compensation, workforce composition, and staff growth data. If you're looking at these charts and you're thinking, I think I get it, but what exactly is going on here? All of these charts and metrics have little icons next to them. And when you click on them, you can see that there's a little bit more information, including a definition and the data source for the information as well.